another versus battle. Videos that I really enjoy recording, but at the cost, they take super long at editing. And they also take a long time at thinking stuff up. Okay, minus from that little thing. First, another versus battle. First one for 2023. Second versus battle on my channel so far. And we're going to talk about the idea of the Stardust Crusaders, basically Jotaro and his little team, versus Diavolo, the main antagonist of Part 5. So what happens if we decide to have Diavolo fight the Crusaders? Well, I'm going to answer my take on the solution, and you guys can also put your take in the comments. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. But first, I like to thank Red Streak for causing me to make this video of suffering. I'm just joking. Thanks for the request. I hope I'm going to be able to do this video justice. And hope you enjoy, especially you. So yeah, let's start the actual video now, shall we? So, let's start with the first scaling, Jotaro. Now I'm going to do two Jotaros. One in his Part 3 form, and the other one more in his Part 4 form. I'm not going to include Part 6 because, well, spoilers. But yeah, I'm just going to start with Part 3 scaling first. This also kind of goes to Part 4 scaling, because why not? But yeah, this is Jotaro scaling right now. Jotaro was born with the monster stand, Star Platinum, aka Mr. Busted Punchy Ghost. Now, Star Platinum, here's its stats. I already talked about how he's powerful in the Death Note one, and I never really got to scale him fully because I made another video was going to be a Jotaro battle, but I got too scared because the four main anime tend to get copyright striked a lot, so yeah. I'll just do my scaling right now, I guess, on Star Platinum. And I'll start off by saying this. Star Platinum's main gimmick is to punch. Punch super hard. Now, its best feat with punching is the fact that it was able to go basically in a barrage state against Dio's The World, which is a pretty good thing. So impressive there to him. We also have the Star Finger, which is pretty goofy, but pretty busted at the same time. So, yeah, that's kind of the Star Finger. It kind of sucks. And his last power, which is the one that's probably most known for him, is his Time Stop. And that Part 3 and 4 Jotaro, and 6 Jotaro, we're not counting 6 by the way, has Time Stop, but however has a certain limit. Part 3 Jotaro had around 5 seconds of Time Stop, and then Part 4 Jotaro had around 2 seconds. I'm not going to give Jotaro Time Stop for the sake of this video, because for the fact that I'm going to explain later why. But yeah, that's all of Jotaro's feats, and he's pretty busted. I wanted to go more bare bones on this because this video is going to be a long one. So I'm just going to go very bare bones on the scaling for these characters. Now, the next person we scale is his grandpa slash his old man, because he calls him Old Man Joseph. Now, back then, Joseph was a super cool dude who was basically in his prime when he was young, but I'm not counting that form because we never really get to see him in Stardust Crusaders in that form, so yeah. And also there's Part 4 Joseph as well, which, yeah, he's probably not going to be included in this as well. I'm only going to stick with Part 3 as well. So, yeah, with that case, we're going with Part 3 Joseph for this, and let's start scaling his stand. Don't expect much scaling on this one, because his stand kind of sucks. Hermit Purple. Now, Hermit Purple, I'll show you its stats. Yeah, that's its stats. Mine's from a very dumb design. It also doesn't really have good stats. Now, its ability, actually pretty cool. So, Joseph can basically just hit a camera and just summon things at will with that camera. And by that I mean basically just take pictures of people and basically stalk them. That's how he defeated Dio. So maybe it'd help against Diavolo. Who knows? But probably not. But we also got to talk about one more thing about Joseph, and that's his hormone. And Joseph was able to basically fire Coke lids, like the little bottle caps to Coca-Cola sodas, or just random sodas. They're actually Coca-Cola in the anime, believe it or not. And also was able to use clacker volleys. But that's young Joseph. We're talking about old Joseph. Not old Joseph, but old Joseph. So, yeah, that's Joseph scaling it. Like the Jotaro one, I didn't really go into too much detail. That's because the video is going to be a long one, and I already know that. So I'm just kind of keeping it short. Now it is time to scale the Boston Terrier with an attitude. Iggy Dog. Now, as for Iggy's character, he's basically just a rebellious dog who doesn't listen to no one's commands. That's kind of his character, and he was honestly just forced to join the Crusaders so they can have a six-membered. So, yeah, with that, that's kind of Iggy's backstory, I guess. So, let's talk about his stand, I guess, shall we? The Fool. Now, when it comes to the Fool, here's the stats. Pretty okay stats. Now, like, for its main abilities, the Fool is kind of like Gaara from Naruto, where he basically just has sand manipulation. How he uses this sand manipulation includes stuff like making giant shields for himself, using it to glide for himself so he doesn't touch the ground in case of an enemy attacks, and he can also lift up other members of the team, showing the fact that he was able to actually support Jotaro's weight, even though Jotaro was the heaviest member of the Crusaders, if I remember correctly. And he can also transform into other people, as seen when he transformed into Dio to full ice. But then again, the ability would need to be specialized, so it wouldn't be a fake out, as Ice was able to see through it, so if Iggy tries enough, he maybe could be more successful with it. And overall, that's Iggy. Not much, honestly. He's kind of a basic character, but minus from that, he's got some good feats to himself and is pretty good. So let's go to the next character, shall we? And the character Iggy decided to risk his life for. Polnareff. Now, when it comes to Polnareff, Polnareff is the hot-headed member of the team and the most emotional member of the team. So he's kind of easy to get off his temper. But however, for the most part, he's still a pretty good fighter, minus from that temper of his. As for his stand is called Silver Chariot. Now, Chariot actually might be my favorite of the Crusader stand. Either that or there's two other stands, which are the other ones that are about to be mentioned in a little bit. But those are my three favorite stands from the Crusaders. Now, when it comes to Silver Chariot's stats, here are the stats. Yeah, from what you can see, his speed is his best priority. And that's his main little focus, as Polnareff is mostly using his speed to try to fight his opponents. Now, as for his abilities, Polnareff's main abilities, more like side abilities, main abilities kind of similar to Jotaro and Star Platinum, he just attacks a lot very fast, is one of his side abilities includes him being able to launch his sword, kind of like Jotaro's Starfinger, but probably a lot better, but more than likely a lot easier to dodge. He's also able to remove Silver Chariot's armor, and that just boosts up his speed to make him a lot faster than he is originally. And we also got Silver Chariot Requiem, which is too busted of a stand, and I'm not going to include it here, but I just wanted to include it. And its main ability is more of just switching bodies. That's kind of its main ability. Soul switching, body switching, whatever you like to call it. And yeah, that's basically Polnareff. Overall, probably one of the strongest members of the team. Arguably the strongest. That's a debatable thing. Personally, I think Jotaro's stronger. And I think the other two who were about to scale is stronger. And plus, if you remember, Iggy was able to defeat Polnareff in that one fight. So the more I think about it, he's not the strongest, but he's still a really strong character. So anyway, let's just go to the next character then, shall we? Next character we got is the Egyptian Muhammad Abdal. Now Abdal, I'm gonna say he's probably my least favorite of the Crusaders. I said probably, but minus from that, still a pretty good character. But yeah. But Stan, however, is one of my favorite Stans from the Part 3 characters. He might be my favorite. They said Silver Chariot might be my favorite as well. So one of those two, or the other Stan, which is going to be the last one, and I think you probably know what it is by now. But yeah, let us scale Muhammad Abdul, and I'll show you his stand right now. This is Magician's Red. Now, Magician's Red is a pretty cool stand and pretty busted. Now, when it comes to Magician Red's stats, here are the stats. Yep, pretty much an alright stand, I guess you can say when it comes to stats. It's in the middle. Kind of more of a... It kind of goes downhill when it came to stats a bit, but minus from that, still a good stand. Now, when it comes to ability, here's Avdol's main abilities. Avdol's main focus is fire. Yeah, that's already busted enough. And his main attack is called Crossfire Hurricane, which is basically just a giant fireball. More of just a giant fire cross. It's basically a cross lit on. It's basically a giant fiery cross that's launched into you, but like, whatever. That's kind of how it works there. He can also make, rope out of his fire. I'm not gonna say something else. And yeah, he basically can trap you down and basically keep you all warmed up with his little fire ropes. And his other ability includes that of being able to make fire that can sense out opponents that are mostly hiding. Like, let's say if you were to camouflage yourself and try to attack him with a knife, his fire can sense you out and know when you're coming near, and he could basically get enough time to either dodge your attack or defend it or do something like that. So there's Avdol. And he's probably got the most broken stand of the group if we're not giving Jotaro time stop. So that's basically that. Avdol's probably the most powerful member of the team, and I don't really think any of the members of the team could actually beat him unless we're giving Jotaro time stop. But yeah, he's probably the strongest member of the team and probably their best bet in fighting Diavolo. Now, let's go to the next character, aka the last, and to me, I saved him the best for last because he's my favorite character from the Crusaders. But then again, a lot of people don't really like his character, so whatever. And now it is time for the other Crusader, Kakyoin, my favorite. Now, when it comes to Kakyoin, he's more not as more overpowered and more. He's more technical compared to, Jotaro, Polnareff, and Avdol, which is kind of a refresher when we have a team that's mostly just using their stand and just close range combat. You kind of need a character like that, and Kakyoin's the team's character for that. Now, when it comes to his stand, here is his stand: Hierophant Green, or Hierophanto Green, whatever you like to pronounce it as. I normally go with the first. So, when it comes to what his stand can do, here's his stats. And the stats are kind of like how Silver Chariot is. It's best of a long range stand. And I already said it earlier that he's a very technical fighter and likes to go more long range. So that kind of makes sense why he is the way he is. And that's kind of what Hierophant's range is like, as their stats are alright. Now when it comes to other stuff, when it comes to Hierophant Green, here are its main abilities. Hierophant Green can basically turn itself into more of a threading, vining rope kind of thing, like how Stone Free can. But however, it also can use it to enter inside a people's body and possess them, which is pretty overpowered. Another ability he has is the Emerald Splash, where he just forms water in his hands or something, and then just a bunch of emeralds fire out and basically fire right into your head. Well, it may not seem deadly. Imagine if I just grabbed a bucket of rocks and started throwing at you. Yeah, that would hurt. And that's how it would feel. But instead it feels more dangerous because he keeps repeatedly throwing shots at you. And we can't forget the most overpowered ability from his arsenal. And not only that, but Like, then again, you could consider Abdul the strongest or Jotaro the strongest. Like, if we're not counting time stop Jotaro, some people may keep Jotaro as the strongest, some may keep Abdul. And also, Kakuin's a possibility of being the strongest without including time stop, because we got the 20-meter Emerald Splash, which this attack basically has a barrier around 360 degrees around the span of 20 meters whenever you try to move. An emerald will basically fire out and you gotta deflect it. And basically, it keeps on going until you're basically around surrounded with 360 degrees of emeralds. The only way to counter this is if you have some kind of time manipulating ability, or teleportating ability, or some kind of ability that gets you out of those kind of situations. If you don't have those kind of abilities, you're dead. And that's basically Kakuin. And he might also be one of the strongest members of the team. Either the I wouldn't call him the strongest because he did lose to Jotaro, but he's probably like second or third, depending if you think he's stronger than Abdul. I personally don't think he is, but it's a debatable thing. And he's overall a pretty strong fighter, and that's Kakuin scaling. So overall, that is the Stardust Crusaders, and they're very. I'm only scaling all three of them here, but I mean not all three, but all six of them, and they all have very busted attacks. And overall, probably stand a good chance in winning this. But we shouldn't underestimate Diavolo yet, because he might have an ability that actually helps. So let's start this Diavolo scaling by starting off with this stand. This is Diavolo stand, King Crimson. Now, as for what King Crimson's stats are like, here are its stats. It's basically kind of similar to Star Platinum. Great strength, great speed, and awful range. But also worse range, because Diavolo never has tried to use long-range styles of fighting. Also, its precision does, not precision, but range does suck. Not only that, but also its durability. Now, as for its precision and potential, those are all unknown, but later on, a data book did confirm that his precision is average, with his potential being A, which is really good. So, we're just going to say that's what it's like. And as for his stand powers, it just works. Nah, I'm just kidding. I wasn't going to do that for an excuse. But his ability works like this. So, think of a YouTube video. If you click think of watching a YouTube video on a computer. Whenever you click the little thing, like the up, down, left, and right, if you click the right side 2 times, you skip to 10 seconds. And you just basically skip parts of the video. That's how Diavolo's ability works. Time skip or time erasure, depending what you like to call it. I call it time skip personally. Now, other things about Diavolo's power is he can basically avoid being hurt, but at the cost, he cannot interact with nothing for 10 seconds. He can also skip parts of what's supposed to happen, like skip that stuff that's fated to happen. Like, for example, if Diavolo was fated to kill Narancia, he just skips time, and fate just goes at what was supposed to happen. Narancia was supposed to die. Now, his other ability includes making goofy faces that are cursed. Nah, I'm just joking. His other ability is Epitaph. As for what Epitaph can do, it can see into the future, and basically see 10 seconds into the future. Similar to how Diavolo is able to skip 10 seconds in the future, he can also see 10 seconds into the future. But this ability is mainly focused on Doppio. As for who Doppio is, this is Diavolo's split personality, or his original personality, depending what theory you like to believe in. And Doppio takes the appearance of a small teenage boy. He also talks to a frog, which he assumes is a phone, and I guess the team may consider it sus and may figure out that's Diavolo. But overall, that's Diavolo scaling, that's his powers and all that, and that's everything you need to know about him, I guess. So, this is scaling to Diavolo and the Crusaders, and now it's time to analyze a big battle on who would win, and a scenario on how to play it out. Now, I have really 2 scenarios to go with it. The first round would be more of a Stardust Crusaders X Part 5 thing, but however, kind of Diavolo replacing Dio as the main antagonist.
And the second case scenario would be kind of a mix of the whole horse what if, where also being a what if in a what if. And instead, Polnareff calls all the Crusaders in, except for Whole Horse. As for why, either it's because Whole Horse is doing his own Whole Horse thing, or the worst case scenario, and Whole Horse is the only casualty. Sorry, bud. So with that being said, let's just start the video.
So let's start off with round 1 right now. So Joseph finds out about his stand, gets it the same way. He finds out about Diavolo, and he decides to want to stop him because Joestars are noble and all that. So he goes to get his best friend Abdul to help him bust out his grandson Jotaro, so they can defeat Diavolo together. And while doing that, they meet Kakyoin and Polnareff as well, and later realize that they might need a little more help and decide to get Iggy to help them as well. Now, you might be wondering two things. No, I mean, just you might be wondering something. Not two things, just one thing. What happens with the Joestar stands without Dio around, and them not wanting to stop Dio and wanting to go after Diavolo? What happens to their stands? Well, it's pretty easy to say that we can just write Dio out. Now, how we write Dio off? There's two cases I have. One, Dio dies on the boat with Jonathan, and the Joestars get their stand some other cool, wacky way. Or two, which is the way I want to go with, Dio gets super cocky and thinks that since he has a stand, he can walk on the sun. He walks outside, burns alive into the sun. Pretty easy. That's the one I want to go with so they could at least get a stand. Plus, it's just so stupidly hilarious and seems very in character for Dio. So that's what happens. And that's why Dio's not here. But back to the main point. Now that Dio is not here, they now can go for Diavolo. So they go to Italy and hunt down Diavolo. So Jotaro, Joseph, Polnareff, Kakyoin, Iggy, and Abdul are all now in Italy. So the first question is, what does Diavolo do if he finds out about them? Well, what Diavolo did in the OG when he found out people were looking for him is send out his goons. Now, this is what normally Diavolo did, that being send out his elite guards. Now, as for the elite guards, this includes Squalo and Tiziano. The one guy, I forgot his name, but he has a stand called Notorious B.I.G. And Secco and Chocolate. Joseph is able to defeat, I forgot their name, I forgot both of their names now. Oh, Tiziano, yeah. Because he can just wrap Hermit Purple around his tongue and use Hamo to kill Talking Head. Jotaro, Star Platinum, Speed, and Precision probably are able to catch up to Clash pretty early, so that's all done. Abdul used the Magician's Dread to burn away Notorious B.I.G., so he's already gone. Iggy is able to use the full sand to trap Secco under the ground, and when Secco decides to pop up again, Polnareff uses Silver Chariot and slices into death, and Kakyoin uses Hierophant Green's range to basically stop the helicopter Chocolate's in and basically shoot him with Emerald Splashes. Diavolo at this point would be scared again and would decide to send more minions. This would probably be some random minions, and maybe La Squadra, or heck, if you want, maybe Bucciarati's team is the one who's going after the Crusaders. But however, someone is angry about this cowardliness of Diavolo, and that's Polnareff. So Polnareff decides to go on his own little quest to look for Diavolo. This would lead to Polnareff fighting Diavolo, and like what happened in the OG Part 5, Polnareff does not really do that good and ultimately gets very hurt very badly. And now at that point, the Crusaders would realize one of their teammates are now missing. So they would all use their stands to probably try to track them down. So one of the Crusaders, we'll just say for the sake of the story, it's Kakyoin, is able to find out what happened to Polnareff and sees Polnareff on a cliff, both of his legs missing, with one of his arms missing as well. Obviously at this point, Kakyoin panics and gets the others in time to try to get him. Now when it comes to this scenario, we have two scenarios to go with. One, Polnareff's dead, which realistically is what should have happened. Or two, Polnareff's still alive for a little bit, and the Speedwagon Foundation's able to save him. We'll say it's one. But either way, even if it was two, I doubt the Speedwagon Foundation would let him still fight.
But with that being said, Polnareff's already out off the bat. Now you could question what happens with Doppio. Like, how would a Doppio encounter work? When it comes to that, Doppio was kind of a character where I doubt they would. Like, I don't think they would notice anything suspicious about him. Only way I could see them viewing Doppio in some way suspicious is if Iggy's seen Diavolo before and sniffed him out, and then when he sees Doppio, he sniffs him out as Diavolo, and then the group can just gain up and kill Doppio or interrogate him or something. But yeah, I don't really think Doppio is a factor here. But I don't think you guys are really in the mood for the rest of the story, and you just want to see Diavolo fight the remaining Crusaders. So, yeah, by that point, we'll just say for the sake of the story, Joseph just uses Hermit Purple, and then they just find Diavolo. Simply, that's all they can do. So, now with that being said, what does Diavolo and the Crusaders fight basically go like? Well, here's how I see it going as, in my personal opinion, by the way. So, tell me your opinion in the comments, but this is going to be the scenario I'll go with. So now the moment we've been waiting for. Diavolo versus the Crusaders. Jotaro versus Diavolo. King Crimson versus Star Platinum. Well, how does the fight go, you may ask? Well, here's how it would start. Jotaro would basically do what he normally does in every fight and start off with the Aura Barrage, but Diavolo would obviously use his Time Erasure, like what he always does, a little cheeky piece of crap. At this point, the team would kind of be nervous, but however, Kakyoin and Avdol would use their long-range attacks. Avdol would send fireballs, while Kakyoin would send emeralds. Diavolo would race time again, and like what happened with the Narancia fight, no, not the Narancia fight, but Risotto fight, when Narancia tried shooting at him, nothing really hits him. The fireballs and emeralds go through him with no pain. Joseph, Kakyoin, Avdol, and Jotaro and Iggy, at this point, are understandably nervous at this point, seeing this guy just tank all their attacks with basically no selling them. Diavolo would kind of notice at the point that the 3 stands he's already seen full of now, and plus has seen what the other 2 are probably capable of. Diavolo's best bet would be to erase time and to turn someone into a donut. This would most likely either be Jotaro, Kakyoin, or Avdol. In my opinion, most likely Avdol, because Magician's Red and Fire would probably be too overpowered for Diavolo to deal with, and too much of a handful for someone like him. At that point, Diavolo would probably try to erase time and go after one of the other Crusaders, but Iggy would use the Fool, and Jotaro and Kakyoin would both hop onto the Fool at the right moment, and Iggy would basically just carry them away. So Joseph would also try to run away as well, and the 4 of them would just reunite, and basically need to think of a game plan. At that point, Diavolo is kind of waiting for just someone to show up so he can beat them up with King Crimson. So, at that point, Kakyoin would probably start to figure out something odd. Diavolo's patterns, teleportation, and all that, Kakyoin may think that Diavolo has something to do with time. And Kakyoin would start to believe that Diavolo could erase time, maybe someone does something that causes a time erasure, and Kakyoin figures it out and tells Joseph and Jotaro. So at that point, Kakyoin would have a game plan and would want to pull off an ultimate trap. If Kakyoin's trap were to work, at that point, Jotaro would then use the stand barrage and be able to kill Diavolo. Kakyoin, Joseph, Jotaro, and Iggy know that this is their only chance of beating Diavolo, and decide to play along. Diavolo, kind of waiting around to see where they're at, sees a bunch of emeralds fire out, and notices that he's now in the 20-meter emerald splash. Diavolo would kind of shake it off as no big deal, and would decide to erase time. But however, once time resumes back to normal, Jotaro is right in front of him, and uses Star Platinum to beat the crap out of him. And because of that, Diavolo was killed. And because of that, Diavolo's stopped, and Italy's all happy-dappy and all that, I don't know. And the group win with only 2 casualties. 1 depending if you want Polnareff to live. And yeah, that's pretty easy to say that for it to happen, I guess. So, now here's round 2 to this what if. And this is basically the what if within a what if.
And I'm going to use for the basis of this the whole horse what if, because that's a video where all the Crusaders survive. So we'll just say for the sake of the story that this is a timeline where whole horse still does save the Crusaders, but however the Crusaders also go to help Polnareff. Now whole horse will not be here because obviously he's not an actual Crusader and this is only a what if, so I'm not going to include him in. As for why he won't be in there, like storyline wise, we'll say he's just doing his own whole horse things. Yeah, totally his own whole horse things, and also maybe taking care of Jolene Tinmay. He's totally not dead, okay? And another thing with a character not being here is Joseph. As for why Joseph wouldn't be here is because Joseph never, like after part 3, he never really fought or was like fighting after that. Like you could say he maybe would, but then again, during the stand arrow hunt, he wasn't really involved in it. Like he may have used Hermit Purple to try to help Jotaro and Polnareff to figure out all the locations that the arrows could possibly be. But then again, he just didn't really do much. It's just, I don't know. It's probably for the best to not include Joseph here, and plus he was becoming senile from the 10-year time skip, so yeah, Joseph's not going to be involved in this part, okay? And on a side note, Avdol, Iggy, and Kakyoin would all three, in my honest opinion, improve on their stands and would definitely be a lot stronger. Now, you could argue that that kind of makes no sense, but I'm going to make it kind of realistic by doing that, and I don't think none of them would stop training on their stands. Avdol, because he's always been known for being with his stand and has always kind of been with them for a while. Iggy, because he's basically with Polnareff, means that he's probably going to train, because Polnareff was probably training with his stand around that time. The only one I don't see is maybe Kakyoin. That's like a fair argument, but still, Kakyoin's Hierophant's always been a part of his life ever since he was a kid, so I doubt he just dropped the stand off the bat like that, so I still think he's going to train with his stand personally. But let's go to the main thing. Time Stop, Jotaro's ability, versus Time Skip, Diavolo's ability. What do I think wins? In my honest opinion, Time Skip wins. Now, as for why, Time Skip skips into the 10 seconds into the future. Time Stop freezes 5 seconds of what's currently going on. That's, you see where I'm getting at. Star Platinum's Time Stop is not winning against Diavolo's Time Skip, in my opinion. Because Time Stop cannot overpower the Time Skip. I'm going to say Time Skip would overpower Time Stop in this matter. Though Star Platinum is probably better physically than King Crimson. So, yeah, Diavolo would win this. But, however, there's one thing about Diavolo I do want to state, and that not only Jotaro, but heck, maybe Kakyoin or Avdol or Iggy could beat him. Heck, maybe Polnareff honestly could have beaten him if this were the case. But Time Skip relies a lot on timing. Let me explain. This was basically seen when Polnareff met Diavolo during the final fight of Part 5, that Polnareff was tracking down Diavolo's movements with Time Skip. Once he found out when he moved, Polnareff went after Diavolo. Realistically, if you do the same thing, if not do it better, and since Polnareff probably would have told Avdol, Kakyoin, and Jotaro about this, I feel like they could definitely plan up a better move, because the fact that Diavolo also knew that he was actually doing that, because Diavolo figured out Polnareff was already going to do that, I feel like Kakyoin, Jotaro, or Avdol, or heck, maybe even Iggy would have a better version of Polnareff's tactic. Do it in a more unique way that would work better. And when Diavolo does find out, that would basically have them basically kill Diavolo. It's pretty easy, and I think that would work. In my opinion, the best bet would probably be to waste the 20-meter Emerald Splash, and then, once time resumes, then just kill him. But, like, legitimately, it's that easy. Diavolo's time skip, while it's overpowered, yes, I can admit that. I think we can all admit that. The fact that that was basically a glaring weakness. That fight with Polnareff showed us that as long as you can counter out the time skip at the right moment, you've won the fight. So, yeah.
My honest opinion, the Crusaders still win if they time it right, but if they don't, then Diavolo probably is going to win. Probably not, though, the more I think about it, because Diavolo is not really good in multi-minute fights. It's best for him to go 1v1 against someone. So, at the end of the day, my conclusion is this. I think in both rounds, both cases, the Crusaders are going to win. Mainly because Diavolo is not really good when it comes to group fights, and also because the Crusaders have characters who are very smart and strong on their team. And Diavolo, while he is smart and strong, don't get me wrong, it's just... I think the Crusaders just have members who are smarter and stronger than Diavolo. So, yeah, that's kind of my conclusion. Special thanks to Red Streak for requesting this video, and if you have any other ideas, Red Streak, or let alone if any of you guys have ideas for videos, tell me in the comments below. I would love to cover them. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you when I get to my next video. Goodbye.